morning. We're gonna,
Is that on?
I don't know, is this on? Good morning. We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call of officers. Gary,
Yeah.
Joe,
Here.
Judy,
Here.
Steve,
Here.
John,
Here.
and Dwayne.
Here.
Here.
Can we have, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the March 1st meeting? If not, can we have a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Under financials, we kind of held the line in March. We had $160 less in income, but we had $2 underspent. So we're kind of holding right along line with the budget. We'll get a little better picture on our financial status after we get some of these projects out of the way that we've got lined up. Dwayne, you want to give us some update on E?
Sure. Well, we've got a lot going on. I'm sure a lot of folks have noticed that. We started a couple weeks ago with clearing the silt fence lines so that we could install the silt fences, and then the county has to come in and inspect the silt fences and the state too, and they did that, and we got blessed off on that Tuesday, I believe it was this week. So now we're clear to go ahead and do the general site clearing. So that for the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a lot of activity, cutting down all the trees and vegetation that are outside of the preserve areas. We're also clearing exotics out of the preserve areas, the conservation easement. So that's going on at the same time. Then it'll all be chipped and hauled off site. Once all the clearing is done, then we can start hauling in the dirt. So we expect the dirt hauling to begin, sometime the last week or so of April. In addition to that, we did a bunch of improvements on the FPL access road that goes through the FPL easement. We also filled all the monstrous potholes in Angus Lane, which is our construction access route to get to the FPL easement. So that was completed. I think basically that's it for construction for now, but you're going to see and hear a lot of activity out back there for the next few months at least. On another front, we've been working on the HOA documents. If those would recall who participated or listened to the workshops, what L26 agreed to do is that we would take a crack at drafting up a set of documents for the HOA that would essentially correct the ills that have been in the documents since day zero and all the amendments since then. And the goal being to make them easier to read and understand and comprehend and actually apply. The first step in that is we have to write our own documents for Laguna Carib sub HOA. And then once that's established, then we can then move to drafting the master association documents that would dovetail with the sub. We're supposed to get our sub HOA docs. We're supposed to get them yesterday. I didn't get them, so probably today sometime. We'll review those. Once those are look like they're going to work, we'll turn our lawyers loose. That's easy for me to say. Turn our lawyers loose to start on the redrafting and restating of the existing Cypress Woods documents. So I would anticipate we would have a draft set of those to review, sometime in the month of May. So, I'll update you as I get more specific on that delivery date. But that should give us plenty of time to review those, throughout the course of the summer, excuse me, and then come to a general agreement on those revised documents.
Thank you, Dwayne. Next item is the east section buffer hedge, buffer hedge, which runs along portions of C and D and the Lagoon de Caribe section. Historically, that hedge was put in by Avi when he, and probably it looks like right along the property line when he owned the parcels here. The HOA under Avi and after we took over in 2013, continued to maintain those hedges and trim them with the thought that it was common area or going to be common area. But as it turns out, it is not common area. There is no common area there. So the question was asked, would the HOA replace and or continue to maintain those hedges? It's private property, so I said, well, that's really going to have to be up to a board decision, but I don't see how we can, as a board, as an HOA, just trim private property. So if anybody has any comments or discussion?
I agree. I
Let's see how we do it.
So the HOA will no longer be taking care of those hedges. All right. It's probably an understatement that we have a speeding issue, and it seems to be getting a lot worse before we end up getting somebody killed. We're looking into getting portable radar speed signs. Actually, we just started this in the last week or so. It's probably something we won't do till the fall, but I mean, they've got some portable signs that you can put out that will, besides just notifying you that you're breaking the speed limit, will take a picture. And before somebody gets killed in here, we're going to have to at least wake people up to the fact that they're flying. They go down by my lot sometimes if they're not doing 40 miles an hour. And UPS and FedEx and David has contacted both of them. So we've got a couple proposals, but like I said, this is just starting to look into this and see what we're going to end up with. Any comments, questions?
I think since it's, I'm assuming because it's basically private property. Excuse me. I'm assuming since this is basically private property, we don't run into the issues that they had with trying to do these on streets. Public streets were not public.
No, but I mean, we have in our documents, the speed limits, enforcing the speed limits, that we can do it that way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I don't think we have the issue they had in the cities where they tried to put these things up in public areas.
And for the most part, most of the time, when people see that, they automatically slow down a little bit. You're driving along, you're thinking about something, but it's got to be better than nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Would we enforce any kind of a penalty or anything?
Oh, I think if we had we'd have to come up with a proposal, but I think if you had repeat offenders or somebody really, really flying, then we'd have to take some action. Otherwise, what's the point?
Hey, Pat,
Pat, oh, sorry.
can you hear me?
Did one of these take pictures of the cars?
Pardon me?
One of the radar signs that you found, did they take pictures of the cars or they get a license plate or something? So
Yeah, they store it to the cloud. I mean, but I looked at ones from like 2,900 to 4,900, depending on how sophisticated you get. But there's still a bunch of them out there. And like I said, I just got started, so I was pulling them up as I went along. David,
Hey,
how about
Pat.
the update on a landscape contract?
Hello?
all right.
Whoops.
We are still waiting on several things from renewal. They have trimmed most of our palm trees, but we still have quite a few common area palm trees left to trim. They did a little bit of work on our hardwoods, but not the full trim that we were asking for and that they were promising. And they've missed quite a bit of those trees also. So as of right now, I mean, we've seen some improvements and we've kind of fixed the mowing issues, but we're still having some growing pains with some of their new contracted services like the full tree trim and the monthly walkthrough that we do with the grounds committee. Some of those issues are still unresolved, but we're working with them. It's our only choice at the moment.
Hey, Pat.
Well, it seems like he's cooperative, right? They're trying to correct it.
They're trying, sure, yeah.
Okay, well, that's progress.
Right.
Hello.
All right,
I have a suggestion on that. David, you should probably have a conversation with Newell to let him know that right now, this is of course subject to change, weather, hurricanes, whatever can affect these, but our anticipated opening date for the RV lots in the common areas of Laguna Caribe is going to be somewhere around October 1st. So that's going to add considerably to their, volume of work they're going to need to do. And everything that's not common area, which is very little, would be in the clubhouse, and they're, we'll just have a separate agreement with them on that, but everything else will either be the lots or the common areas that will be dedicated to the HOA.
Okay.
Is that in the original quote?
No.
Hello.
No,
Hello?
we don't have a quote for
For any
Hello.
of each section?
not yet.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah, we didn't know when they would open, so now we've got a pretty good handle on that. So.
Yeah, and I guess if you have a sort of mock-up of what kind of landscaping will be there, how much grass and that sort of thing, or when it comes time, we can get.
Basically tell him it'll be pretty much the same as what he's got now. I mean, there may be some tweaks that will come later on, but our standard landscaping package will be very similar to what most people already have. And there may be some people that will upgrade, and then we can figure out if there's any upcharges for that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll
Hello.
as soon as it's time, I'll let them know.
Hello.
The ARC committee change?
Oh, yeah, Jim, did you want to talk about the art committee change, or I can just announce it?
Gary Nelson's on? Who's off?
Karen McGregor.
Hello.
Okay, insurance renewal. Judy?
Okay, we just completed the renewal for our insurance policies. We budgeted for 15% rate increase, so we budgeted for $35,000. All of the policies are in now with the premium due of $34,989.41. We are $10.59 under our budget. We came in really close.
Good job, Judy.
No.
Okay, we need to accept that.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the
So-
insurance proposal.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Front entrance sign. This came up last year, a couple proposals. We really have not had any discussion since it come up. Dwayne asked to have this put on the agenda.
I have a question though.
Sure.
When we did the town hall meeting for you in, I believe it was January of 18, you said at the time, you and your other owners said that you were going to put in a new sign. It was nothing proposed that the HOA would put in a new sign.
Right, and we could still do that. What's changed in the meantime is the resort HOA went through a rebranding process and new logos, and the branding committee that did that work pursued a design for a new monument that would combine both the new brand for Cypress Woods as well as the Laguna Caribe. And that's the quotes that were provided that I believe are attached in the package here. Depending on the size of the sign, the combined sign would be either 20,000 and change or 24,000 and change. I don't have the exact figure. And what we have, L26 has done is we've offered to cover half of that total cost. That's our offer that we've made to the board. And we wanted to bring this up for discussion today. You could stick with the existing Cypress Woods monument, and we just build a separate monument for Laguna Caribe. I don't think that would be the best foot forward for the resort. I think it would be better to have a integrated monument sign that would represent Cypress Woods as well as Laguna Caribe. But, you know, that's a board decision.
David, and there's one in here that I hadn't seen before, king signs. It says the artwork attached, but I don't see any artwork for that particular one.
Yeah, that one, they told us that they would not provide a written or a drawing until we paid them $100.
Really?
Great way to make business, right?
Yes.
So per the artwork attached is really
There
irrelevant.
was
yeah, 'cause
nothing was attached.
Pat, it's right here on the bottom of this.
I will
Yeah,
tell
but-
you that
yeah.
the quote that did provide the artwork is right in line what we had been advised would be, you know, appropriate cost for that by our landscape architect. So.
Pat, there's two different proposals here, and there's quite a bit of difference in price. One of them is for a large sign or a small sign, same design. I think that run, what was it, 20,000 and 24,000? But there was another one that run like 14,000,
Right, Lee's signs was 14.
Yeah.
which personally, of the three, that's the one I would lean to if we do that. It has our address on it. I don't know, it just looks like a better,
They're almost identical. I mean,
well,
slight difference. It has the
Yeah.
the one on proposal one is mostly aluminum framed and what have you. The other one doesn't really specify what the material they're gonna use.
I mean, the 24,000 one?
Yeah.
No.
So if Laguna Caribe goes in half of that, we'd be looking at $7,000.
The other
About,
thing is what, you know, I know these are double-sided.
Thought it said,
I don't know why we really need a two-sided sign.
We don't need it.
I was thinking the same thing.
If they
Joe.
ever extend, you know, it should be designed where it can be added, but until they extend Luckett Road through, if they ever do, I think it's kind of a waste. I don't think the cows need to know.
There was discussion of actually turning the sign instead of being in the direction that it is, redesign that front area.
Parallel to Luckett.
Turn it parallel to Luckett, and then you only have to light one side, put a display on one side. And the monument is still the most expensive part of it, but it does cut down on lighting and the logos themselves, and so we no need
Yeah,
for the back.
but where it sits now, you still see it as you come down the road, but it would still only have to be one-sided either way. If you turned it so it's facing Luckett Road, then the backside could say, "Thank you for visiting," or "Come back soon," or something.
Tack
Hokey.
anything you want on the backside, it
Yeah.
really wouldn't matter much.
Right.
I wonder what the savings would be on something like that. Probably minimal.
Minimal.
Well, to do that, you know, we really have to redesign the landscaping up there. I think even though you have an entire road and a very wide entrance, people can't round that corner in some of the bigger RVs. So they end up driving over the landscaping that's there now.
Yeah.
So if we were to move the sign back,
A little bit.
put pavers or just asphalt, just pave that area along the road to give them a little bit of a wider turning lane.
Yeah, I would agree. It should be moved back a couple of feet.
Yeah, it gets hit. I mean, every time someone pulls around that corner.
The only thing you better think about when you're making widener, when you make them wider, the more they're going to cut and come toward your sign.
Sure.
That's a bad problem there.
Yeah.
You know, doing that.
Maybe wider, and we put something to block it.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Yeah, put a big yellow post.
Well, yeah, you might want to put up a couple of
On a
bollards.
rock.
No, just put yellow that'll go on the side.
David, we do have power out there, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Because none of these include power.
Can you just add to the top?
Yeah, power is already on the island.
Dwayne, you going to advertise on the interstate put a billboard up or anything like that? No, we're not going to do billboards. our marketing campaign will be primarily through internet, website, direct mail, probably some advertising and RV publications, printed publications.
That, your people looked at the one from Lee Signs? I know he commented on one of them, but I don't, that was in an email. I don't know which one one of your guys commented on. I thought it was one of the other ones. Huh?
In the green folder?
Under proposal one.
We had, just from a stylistic standpoint, we thought the more expensive one was, the one that looks best. But, I mean, we're open to a different choice if you want. Oh, it's this one? Yeah, we weren't very impressed with that one.
Oh, that's the one you like?
This is the
Like
one,
the tall one?
we like the large sign. That's the one we like the most, but
Was any of this put into the budget for this year?
No.
we would anticipate that if this is a budget issue, we could work something out with the resort to where, if need be, we could cover the cost and then, you could reimburse us later if that works, if that's a problem.
Well, thank you.
What's the interest rate?
We'd
on
like
that?
to, we'd like
Yeah,
to
what's
have
the
the sign
interest
up.
rate?
We'd like to have the sign up by the time we open is the point, and that's not in 2022, so.
Right.
This small sign, I think Laguna Creek stands out a lot better on the small sign than it does on the large sign.
It's a matter of taste. I mean, everybody has different ideas. Our preference is for the larger one, but we don't want to have a long-winded discussion about it. I mean, if the resort board feels that that's a better, deal, then fine, we're okay with that. We'll cover half either way. But we do believe it would be better to have an integrated sign. I think it just makes a lot more sense.
There isn't
Well,
room
I
up there
agree
for
with
two
that.
separate
What,
ones.
Dwayne, what was the reasoning between the $14,000 sign and the 20 or 24,000?
It's just aesthetics and
Yeah.
taste, I like this versus I like that. I mean, it's no more than that.
Yeah.
Does anybody know how big the current sign is? Roughly, I mean, I'm looking at 132 inches for one sign, 120 inches.
I don't know.
I didn't hear what you said.
No,
I don't know.
he's
Do you
asking
have
if
any
anyone knows
measurements
what
on
our
that,
current
David?
sign
I
size
don't
is, what the size of the current sign is.
The current sign isn't so much that it's not long enough, it's that it's not tall
No,
enough.
it's,
Oh, no, I get that. I was just wondering how long it is.
It's probably not very far off from these. I'm guessing just scaling, it's probably 100 inches, give or take.
yeah, I tend to agree with you,
I
Dwayne,
think
that the
it
bigger
looks like about
sign is
10
more
feet if you
impressive.
look at his drawings. If you look at the drawing where they show the old sign, it's almost takes the place. It looks like about 10 feet in length.
Well, according to the specs on that $14,000 sign, it's 12 feet
Yeah, I see
long.
that.
Yeah.
And the other's 120 inches.
As I started to say, I think I agree with Dwayne that the taller one's a little more of an impressive entrance.
It stands out a
Yeah.
lot more in my opinion, but that's just an opinion.
A lot of money.
And Cypress Woods gets top billing, so, we're just the supporting actor.
I do think if we went with that, we'd have to adjust the size of sort of the semicircle on the very top of it. Right now, it's wider than what our logo actually is. If you look at the difference between the two, and it sort of looks, I don't know, out of place. But maybe not.
Well, it can get cleaned up with adjustments.
Yeah, you can always tweak. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
go through a final draft review with us before, it's ordered.
Is the large sign, is that aluminum framed? What is it?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't
Yeah.
say what it says.
Right. That's why I was a little concerned as to what they were going to make it out of.
It does say digitally printed graphics applied, so I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Sounds like a decal of some kind.
Yeah. If we decide this is sort of the route we want to go, we can get more information from them and see what that actually means. Because I mean, a sign of that size, I don't know what you would digitally print on there. It would have to be almost like a metal 3D overlay.
It's either a metal or some kind of an insert, I would think.
That's actually how I think most signs are done these days. is that.
That's digitally printed stuff. That's like what I have my golf cart wrapped with. They guarantee that for 10 years. I guess.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we find out exactly what this thing is going to be made of, and
Maybe the committee that started this process, let them follow up with some Q&A with vendors and get us some more information, and then we can, make a
Nice to go
final
and see
decision.
something that they've done.
I don't
It'd
know
be nice
that,
to see a sign that they've done.
yeah.
is the committee still functional? I don't know that it is.
I don't know.
Did
who's
it
on
disband or?
Well, Hal was the chair.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it's,
the logo committee was.
yeah, I think that one's done.
Okay.
The sign, the price for the sign doesn't include landscaping around the sign, right?
No.
Correct.
So we would need to probably cover some landscaping around the sign, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, landscaping, lighting.
Lighting, yeah. Lighting's
Yeah.
not included.
And those are minimal in comparison to the sign itself.
I don't know. I'd like to
Find out what they've done.
I'd like to find out, yeah, let's see an address. I'd like to go see an address.
That's good. You can go take a look at a few of them and take some photographs.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be.
And
more
find
than
out
willing to-
what they're constructed of.
They were pretty good to work with in the beginning. Brittany worked with them and had nothing but good things to say about them.
I think Brittany was doing the lion's share of the work on this.
Yeah, there's pictures on their website. That's why I contacted them, because all the stuff that they had on the website actually looked really good. So they were the first people I contacted.
Maybe just send us the links for that so we can check it out. That would be good.
Brittany, were you talking about the Cranny Company or the Lee?
Both of them.
Oh, both of them? Okay.
Well, they do Applebee's, so that's a good sign.
And Domino's.
All right, so we'll do some further research on this.
Yeah, we've got some time. If we could get it ordered by, summer sometime,
Oh, we should, yeah,
that would work.
we could get it probably, I don't imagine it takes too long for them to make that thing.
Probably 30
Especially for
days.
doing the printed graphics, that's all computer generated.
Right, yeah. Nobody's sitting there with a paintbrush. Not anymore, anyway.
David, water pressure update.
Okay, well, the first issues were resolved, I think, by our last meeting. A25 completely done, signed off on. Same with A38 and 39. There's a list attached to this. I think it's in the minutes. I don't know if I attached it separately again, of all of the remaining issues. And this wouldn't be all of them. This is the ones who are in A, who we asked if you have low pressure. They've been verified that they have low pressure. I just need direction on how, we don't want to do this while everyone is here, because there will be some times that the water will have to be shut down, I'm sure. And, at least part of the park put on a boil notice. So we want to try to plan some of these all at the same time, but I need direction on what do we do next? And if there's any issue with me looking into some other contractors, because the company that did the initial work, they left quite a mess when they did it, and he said that he's not going to be doing any digging in Cypress Woods. And if we expose everything, he'll come out and do the actual plumbing work, but he's not going to touch a shovel in this place after the first round of them.
And who was that, David?
Atomic Plumbing.
Tommy.
If we do hot taps, we shouldn't have to do a boil water. Is that correct?
If you do a hot tap, yeah. And in most cases, that should be possible. It just depends on the
David,
layout.
when you take your test, where are you taking the flow and static? Are you taking them off the same post?
Yeah, we have a couple different ways that we've done it. Charlie Lawrence actually built a rig with one valve that connects us the Y valve on it with a gauge on one side and the hose on the other side. So we can do the test all at once where we measure static pressure, residual pressure when we open the other side, and the flow rate. And we before we were doing that, we used Chris's gauge, so we had to do them on separate posts on the lot, and the results are basically the same. His rig and doing them separately didn't make any difference at all. But we're measuring flow rate by filling a 5-gallon bucket, and there were some that took 2 minutes and the bucket wasn't full for 5 gallons of water. We just gave up and said, okay, well, that's as low as you could possibly.
Be interesting to see if you put a gauge on the outside spigot and then ran the water in the coach full, just like somebody was shower on full or something, and see what the pressure drop is there. Because if you're taking them off the same apparatus, you're going to get a higher pressure drop than you would if you had taken from the coach.
Not really. What we've found is it doesn't even have to be on the same lot. If they share a water line, we could have the gauge on A25 and go crack open A26, and it would still drop down to nothing.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
yeah. So your neighbor is affecting you, just as much as if you're taking them off of the same tap itself.
If I may,
You may.
0 at the Silcock is 0 inside the coach. If you have no residual pressure, you have no pressure. You've got water running, but no residual pressure. 0 is not the right number.
The legal minimum is 20 PSI. So if you go below 20, technically you're supposed to do a boil water.
Yeah, that would mean people are boiling water every time they do the dishes. Every time the neighbor runs a load of laundry and you turn on your sink, you're below 20.
Realistically, there's going to be differences in water pressure, in any system, but you should always have at least 30 pretty much no matter what. So if you're getting down to 20, you've got a serious problem, let alone 0.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the best thing to do, David, is see if we're going to have to find a contractor, number one, and then take them as they go. And the worst ones, and start fixing them.
So with some of these bigger summer projects like the bee fence, if we're going to do any of those repairs in-house, it may be time to get a second maintenance person on board, someone less skilled and more of a laborer type person that will assist in digging these holes. And if we could still use Atomic, they're reasonable. The work itself is good. Some of his employees weren't the best to work with, but I don't think they work for him anymore. But if we did the majority of the digging and expose this stuff ahead of time, that's still something we could do with Atomic. It might be a little bit more cost effective than going to someone like SunWest. SunWest has been typically 3 to 4 times more expensive than Atomic Plumbing was.
Right. Well,
and they're one of the cheaper ones.
I mean, I think it's a good idea if you get somebody, some summer labor in here. There's plenty of people at Lowe's and Home Depot and down at that corner market looking for jobs in the morning.
Yeah, we can't pay them though. We don't have a way to legally pay for that kind of labor. Unless everyone
I forgot legally.
Just have everyone send in $5 in cash to us, and we could take care of that. But
GoFundMe account.
we've used labor finders before, and
You can even get that on a contract basis.
Yeah, and we did, but they're kind of hit or miss. The guy we had was one of their better people, but he just is older and he was reliable. He just wasn't that great when he was here.
Careful there.
Well, it's still more cost effective if we did some of this repairs in-house than contract it out.
Yeah, so
Some of the numbers we're looking at.
with going that direction, do we want, to hire someone on for part-time? Hire someone seasonally, say, look, we'll have you over the summer and we'll revisit in the fall, but actually hire them, as an employee? Or do we want to go through another labor finders type service, which, it saves on insurance and things like that, but ultimately for the first 10 weeks of use is a little bit more expensive.
Well, I think in all probability, we probably do need
We need help.
more hand here than just Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of infrastructure,
wastes a lot of time
just the
digging holes.
irrigation alone is keeping him pretty busy. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to hire somebody on. I mean, even if we took him on for the summer and said, okay, we'll revisit it.
Sure.
In all probability, we will need to keep him on in the winter when we get back.
Right.
So
If that's the route we want to go, then we could still use Atomic Plumbing for the actual plumbing repairs if we did, all of the digging ahead of time.
yeah, I mean, he does a reasonable price.
Very. I don't think anyone will come close to it.
Yeah.
So far, everything he's done,
And he's responsive.
all the work that he's done costs less than our quote for one sewer repair on C5. Everything that Bill has done fits into that one repair on C5, and including the work on C5 and A25 and I mean, he's very inexpensive, and I think the work is reasonable, but he said he got rid of his sort of labor help, and he's not
Yeah.
doing it. So if that's the route we'll go, I'll start the search. We'll put a requisition out there and
I think we should.
start doing interviews.
Anybody?
Sounds like a
I
good
think
plan.
we should do that.
Okay, you got your direction on that one.
Good.
All right. Lift station, well, I see the pump's finally in.
Yes. Pump is in, pump is working. They rewired any of the electrical problems that have been there for however long. They or fixed the alarms. So the alarms are functioning the way they should. They've straightened that electrical panel has been sort of leaning since before I started here. It wasn't concreted into the ground. It was just shoved in and into the sand. So they fixed that, put all new conduits. They've done quite a bit as part of that project. So
That's good.
we're in good shape there. All of our lift stations right now are testing perfectly.
And the alarms are on, so we don't
Yes.
have any surprises again?
They were working before. He took them out because it would have been going off the whole time with that missing pump, he said. So if you
Okay.
don't have the two inputs in it, then it would have just been flashing and alerting. So they just disconnected it when they knew the one was down. But it's all back to normal.
All right, while you're on a roll, Gatehouse keypad update.
Yeah, this one is the keypad is installed, but it's just installed in the guard shack right now. But it's out there for us to test. They want to make sure that it's working with the database, which is not migrated yet. As soon as Cellgate gets our database uploaded into the system, we'll run a couple tests. And he said the install at this point is about 4 hours. So that'll happen as soon as Cellgate tells us we're ready to go. But Brittany actually had to write the entire database of every owner and every renter that's in the system, all of their email addresses, phone numbers, all of the swipe cards, keypads. So if you do the math, I mean, most people have, 3 or 5 barcodes, 471 lots plus renters. She had to manually fill in close to 3,000 squares in
Oh,
Excel
my
with
goodness.
email addresses
Oh,
and things.
my.
It was the only way. We couldn't merge our templates into theirs any other way. So now that, we're just waiting on Cellgate and we'll be installed probably next week.
Will the number stay the same, like for dialing in, or?
No, it'll be a completely different, as far as using it. Like if I pull up and I want to go to you don't have that 3-digit code anymore. You'll just start either searching your lot number or your name, either one of them on a touchscreen keypad.
Okay.
So for you could put LLO. You don't even need the Z, and it'll put everyone with an LLO on the screen. So if you don't know how to spell something correctly, or maybe you don't have the full name, like some of the delivery drivers might only have a partial name, they'll just be able to start typing, and whatever information they have should narrow down their list and pull it up. And then you just push the name and call it in. So it'll be good once it's there, and it's in the Gatehouse now. We can play with it, but there's nothing in the database to sort of scroll through and test yet until Cellgate does that upload.
Thanks, Brittany.
What
What a job.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to be that much, and she's hours in the middle of everything else that she does.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. You couldn't integrate
Thank
that.
you.
All right.
Gave her something. to
Laundry coin machine, that's in?
Yeah, coin machine is in, working, so far so good, no issues. So another one down, working
Okay.
just fine.
And B fence, I think we agreed we're going to see what we can do to repair that as much as possible this year.
Yeah, I mean, $46,000 for some of these quotes is, it's a little much. And a lot of the fence is in pretty good condition.
Right.
And it's always one storm away from not being in good condition, but that's true of a brand new fence.
I just hope you can get the lumber.
That'll be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll get some price. Once I get a laborer in here, I mean, Chris knows how to do the fence. He's repaired half of it anyway. So, we'll start on that project. That'll be the first thing with the new, the laborer.
Okay.
If I could interject, since we're on the topic of fence repairs, being as the storage areas where our construction access runs through, we go through those fences every day now. And some of that's not in very good condition either. So we might want to consider adding that to maybe a project list for some time, in this next year.
It's part of the same discussion. The quotes we got there were $35,000-$40,000 to put a fence around it. But now that there's been talk of expanding the storage area, at least one of those gates, I guess the southern gate, which is the one in worse condition, wouldn't be there anymore if we expanded. It could also be done in chain linked for 3 out of the 4 sides of it, with just a wood or vinyl side on the part that faces Cypress Woods, just for the view, but everything else could be chain link. That's no less secure anyway. So that is a discussion, but it's really, I think, would be on hold until we figure out if and when we can move on expanding that maintenance area,
Yeah, that's coming up later on the agenda.
or until one of those gates completely falls apart,
Yeah.
which is maybe sooner than later.
Imminent.
All right, tennis backboard location. This is a holdover from a while back. The backboard was put up and was kind of left wide open as just wood. It's since been covered with windscreen,
Yep.
which is green. It kind of blends into the fence now. I don't know.
But they are going to paint it.
Huh?
They were going to paint it. They just have to wait for the wood to season, I guess.
Well, yeah, but that's got the windscreen on it now. It's covered. I don't know if
On the
they're still. I don't
backside.
know if the plan is still to paint it, but we
We'll
said-
paint it no matter where it stays. It'll be painted as soon as that stuff. If you go look at it now, you can see some of the whatever chemicals in the wood kind of come
walking
out of it. But it will be painted. The big part is, do we leave it where it is? And see, there you go. I was waiting for 5 people yelling, "No, don't leave it where it is." And so some of the tennis people I've talked to, including Don Massey, said, "Look, it's where it is the best location for tennis. Can it move back to where it was and still be usable? Yes, it can." And he said, "I'm not going to put up a fight to keep it where it is now. But if you're asking tennis where it belongs, it's where it is now. If you want to affect less homeowners, then it moves back to where it is over by the pool equipment."
David, when they paint that, they've got to take it down anyhow, right?
No.
I would say, to get at the backside, unless they're going to paint through the chain link.
Yeah, it might. That
So,
chain link
if
fence
they're
is
going to take it down,
needing it anyway.
and honestly, I don't see very many people using that. I mean, I've been here 20 years and, there's the tennis pro, the instructor supposedly uses it once in a while, but
You guys can't see it because they're behind the backboard, so you don't see that one person. I was kidding. But yeah, I've seen people use it. I know people have used it.
oh, I'm
I
not
think
saying they don't, but I
there's
don't
more
think they use it
people-
that much.
More people are affected looking at the back of it
Right.
than use it. So, but I mean, you're going to see it anywhere. If you move to the other side of the lake sees it. But at least it's hidden sort of behind the pool equipment if it's in that corner. So it, again, could be we'll move it over the summer when we paint it. But we need a direction on if we do that. Again, tennis said they're not going to fight for it, but if you ask them, it's where it should be.
I'd make a motion, we move it back when they paint it.
Second,
Who's, Dwayne seconded?
yeah.
Anything on the question?
I think we ought to think about what tennis asked to have it over there. I mean, if they don't want to fight for it, I don't think that's the issue. The point is they're saying that's where the best place is for it.
Well, it's kind of a contradiction, Joe, if they don't want to fight for it, but that's the best place for it. I mean,
It's kind of hard to fight City Hall when you're only a smaller group.
Yeah, there's only 20 tennis players, and I'm sure, half of that 10 may want it to stay there because they're the ones that use it. But, just again, Don Massey sort of, I don't know if he runs the thing, but he's one of the more prominent tennis people, and said, look, it can move back. It just won't be as useful to tennis, but it'll still be there when needed.
well, all in favor, moving it back?
Can we put the thing on wheels and just wheel it around wherever it's needed?
There you go.
Yeah,
Put it on wheels.
put it on wheels.
Is that, I mean, I don't know anything about it, but that may be possible to put it on some kind of cart and
Seems like we got a lot bigger fish to fry.
Right, than,
Yeah.
Right.
than the sign.
We move the motion.
Pardon me?
Can we move the motion?
I'm trying to, Gary. I'm just asking, all in favor? All in favor,
Aye.
moving it back?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to say no. I think leave it where it is.
No, leave it where it is.
All right, that's,
2.
it's like the eyes had it. Okay. Storage area expansion, John, you want to jump on this one?
Yeah, sure. So I checked with FPL about the storage, and of course they have a process, and there's a bit of a fee, a $500 fee to do the paperwork and such. But my plan is to ask them for use of the entire length of our property, and then specify that we would build it in phases as needed. So it may never come to using up the entire property, but certainly have that ability through one ask if that's something that can be done. I'm not sure that they'll let us do that. They haven't responded to that yet. But my idea is that we would, kind of overbuild. We know we have 50 on the list. Build a fair amount more than that. Keep some for short-term rentals. We have, places all around people parking vehicles and such all around the resort. Make space available back there for that purpose. If we need to throw a couple containers in for maintenance, throw some, have some space available for that. Places where somebody wants to put a boat for a week or two, fine, their RV for a week or two, have some short-term rental areas, again, income generating, right? Plus the money that you get from the spots itself. I don't have any pricing yet because I don't know what all FPL is going to require. But I do have a contact, or we've made contact with the first person. The second person just hasn't responded to my inquiries yet. But I'll stay on it and be able to report back by next meeting, some additionals.
All right, John, I have a drawing that Guy Johnson did about the expansion, and he had contacted FPL as to what they would need for protection around their towers, because if we go south, we're going to run into a tower, at least one tower, depending on how far we go. The second thing is FPL, I don't believe, is going to be an issue. Southwest Florida Water Management and the preserve is going to be probably a bigger issue we've got to talk to. We had talked to them a number of years back when I was on the board before, and they told us we couldn't go north, but we could go south. But I guess that's going to depend on who you talk to today.
Yeah, sure.
I can
And
interject. What we're actually discussing here is real estate development. because you're adding new developed area to the resort. And having just gone through all that process in excruciating detail for the last year on Laguna Caribe, working in the FPL easement, there's a lot of considerations that come into play. I believe FPL, as you said, Pat, is not going to be the stumbling block. I mean, there are certain requirements. You can't have anything within 30 feet of one of their tower bases. So as long as you stay out of that and you don't have anything taller than 14 feet and you don't do anything that, inhibits their ability to maintain their lines, they don't really care. They'll charge a fee and, it'll take 6 months to get an agreement signed because that's how slowly they work. But the real issues are the fact that you're actually expanding the developed area of the resort. And so, you got to go in and you got to get a revised master concept plan through Lee County zoning. That's minimum 9 months just to do that. You will also have to get a change to your to the FDEP environmental resources permit. And when you talked about not being able to expand to the north, that's probably because what they recognize is that most of that area north of the storage area is all wetland, which means good luck. You'll never get anything approved there. I mean, you got to pay massive wetland mitigation fees. We had to do that on Laguna Caribe. So again, I'm speaking from personal recent experience on that. To the south, I don't know if the wetlands are south of there, but the point is that the state and the county will both make you determine where the wetlands actually are. And, again, you're not going to be able to get approval to do anything in them. We know that, for instance, on the part of the easement adjacent to Laguna and Caribe, about the southern 2/3 is all entirely wetlands. And it all used to be wetlands until FPL built their power line and road through there. But it's deep. It actually, in the wet season, we did a flyover with drones last year, and it's a lake. And so, I personally waded through it, like up to my, hips in water. So yeah, it's definitely wet land. It doesn't look like it right now because this is dry season. So my point being is that it's a heck of a lot more complicated and involved than just getting an FPL agreement. That's the least of the hurdles to go through. And it can be an expensive process. Even if you didn't have to pay any wetlands mitigation, you're going to have to hire a planner to get a zoning change. That won't be an administrative change. It'll be a complicated full amendment. You'll have to, get the ERP modified. And, that means hiring engineers, hiring planners, hiring environmental consultants. Just to do all of that is probably a 6-figure expense, not including any construction costs. So as long as everybody's aware of that's something that will happen if you want to go this route, you need to take it into account. And it's probably, this is probably a good time of the year right now in terms of talking to some consultants and getting some estimates from them on what it'll take to do all that. And then we could lay it out as a 2022 project, would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah, to me, having to do all that is just, like with you and Laguna Caribe, it's the part of doing business. We have got a wait list that is, I don't know, David, what is it, 50 people or close to it now a day?
Yeah, roughly.
And my name came up finally after 3 years of being on that list. And that's just completely unacceptable to me. And I would imagine just about every other thing. And the fact that this is all self-funding, while yes, there's an expense there, there's also income associated with the expense. So, pretty short order, it would pay off even in the 6-figure, all right? Because, 50 times $700, that's $35,000 a year, if my math is right. So.
Yeah, and John, I mean, that's perfectly fine. What you're describing is making a business case for the expansion. I'm not suggesting that you can't do it. I'm just saying that it's a lot more effort and cost than just getting an FPL agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their documentation states all that. It states that you have to abide by all the different rules, water management, now all of it. It's all in their documentation. So, but that seems to be the place to start.
Right. We own that whole parcel of land. It's one strap, I guess, and it's a right of way right now. But it's all at least confined in one parcel. So I don't know, but maybe the whole parcel or part of the parcel was already zoned or designated as that, and we just stopped arbitrarily 10 years ago. I don't know if they stopped because there wasn't enough people. I guess in the beginning, those spots weren't filled. They built 50 of them, and they allowed people to have multiple spots because they weren't used. So maybe they just stopped expansion south, and it may not be as difficult. I mean, maybe it will.
Well, there's more to it than that. Again, having just gone through all this process on Laguna Crebe, which we had to deal with not just the permit for Laguna Crebe, but all of Cypress Woods, because everything we do is an amendment to what is already approved for Cypress Woods. And, there's a number of constraints in addition to the wetlands issue, squirrel preserves and things like that, but there's also an upper limit on how much developed area you can have. In other words, the county sets a standard. You have to have X% of open space. And so this would not be open space. So you're cutting into that. And right now, having just gone through that on Laguna Crebe, we used up a little bit of that margin between what was required versus what is with Laguna Crebe. So there's not much left. Could you expand the storage area by an acre? Maybe. 5 acres? No. There isn't that much margin left. So those are the things that, a zoning consultant can advise this board on, and I would recommend talking to them.
Is there a cost to talking to a zoning person, consultant?
Well, we have our zoning person. She's very good. Her name is Alexis Crespo. You met her. She's been at it. Excuse me. She presented at our neighborhood meeting, a year plus ago. She knows the processes really well. Would she sit and have a conversation with you without sending a bill? Yes. But if you say, we want to come up with a plan, yeah, she's going to give you a proposal for, her labor to do that.
Okay. Can I don't know if I need permission from the board to have the first meeting or not, or can I just proceed down the path to find out exactly what is needed, obviously not committing to any expenses before the board hears about it?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't have a conversation with her. I'll be happy to give her her contact information, and she'll be happy to talk to you, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then, Pat, I'll keep you certainly in the loop of all steps, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I'll run with this. I think it's needed.
Okay, John, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Metro blind proposal for additional solar screens on the doors here in the great room for $997. I think this wraps up the shades and curtains and stuff in here.
They still have to put in these panels behind us here on these doors. They were waiting on an answer for this before they cut them, because it'll be the same material, sort of this gray solar material that'll block a huge amount of that heat coming through these doors. And it's only on this side, not really necessary over there. That side doesn't get nearly as hot and sunny. If we installed ourselves, we'd save about $200.
Okay, I need a motion to approve it.
I make a motion to approve the Metro Blinds proposal.
I'll second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, in the future, I think for next year, when these committees come up with these projects, they really should submit a wish list and a budget so that we can budget for some of these, because a lot of these things are coming in, no budget, no money put aside to it. just, this is what the committee suggests we do, and run with it. And as much as we can, we want to accommodate it because it's for the benefit of the entire park, but it'd be very, very helpful if we had a budget from these different committees. So, all right, maintenance area relocation status. I don't want to say dead in the water, but it's not looking great. We still have not heard back from the county on the setback for any kind of a wall. I've been kicking around a kind of a different idea. Maybe we could take, if the HOA, the next storage container or spot that comes up back in the storage area, take that container, turn it into a storage unit for Chris to put his shelves and stuff in there. I mean, I got solar panels in mine. I charge my cart all summer long. I have electric lights, fans in there. I think it cost me a total of less than $1,000 to put all solar panels and battery backups and stuff in there. Chris could probably even park his gator in one. So for right now, unless we get a definitive answer from the county, we're kind of on hold with that process.
With respect to that, are they showing resistance or they're just non-responsive?
Non-responsive. I've been waiting for Dan. He still hasn't heard back from him. It's just like, we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
He thought that would be a quick answer, but it hasn't been.
we haven't gotten anything quick out of Lee County. I mean,
Never will.
nothing.
I applied for my permit for my shed on January 29th. They issued it 2 days ago.
I heard
All
from
right.
somebody applied in October and just got it.
Did you? Anything from the board? Dun, dun, dun. All right. Anything from the audience?
My name is Ted Holmberg, and my wife Judy and I have owned C101 for the last 5 years. Thank you for the opportunity to address an issue with the board this morning and the attending.
Speak right at the mic.
Okay, is that better?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity this morning to discuss with the board and the attending HOA members. I'd like to talk about 3 issues, which are really all tied together. The first issue is the destruction of the hedge across the back of our property. The second issue is the disaster of attempting to talk with and get Laguna Caribe to even look at the matter. And the third one is really questions about whether the HOA itself has any legal or even ethical responsibility in helping to try to resolve or even mediate any of these types of disputes.
Ted, let me answer number 3. The HOA cannot get involved in a boundary line dispute. We're not going to be surveying the lots. I mean, that's going to be between the homeowner who has the gripe and Laguna Caribe.
I understand we talked about that last Saturday, so I understand that, and I'll get back to that in just a little bit. On the morning of Monday, March 29th, the cutting crew was coming down the property line doing the hedges and stuff across the northern property lines on C, and they were coming in from the west side. My wife and I were getting ready to leave around 10 o'clock that morning, and there was a big commotion going on next door on site C102 with the owners arguing with the cutting crew. When we came back a couple of hours later, no one was around, and actually our property had not even been touched at that point. The next day, on Tuesday afternoon, my wife and I were going out with friends late in the afternoon for dinner, and the crew was coming down from would be the eastern side, towards, from where the power lines are, and they were coming down that side then, and basically were just right before they got to our property. We didn't get back until after dark, and the next morning I walked back to see what was going on, and to my surprise, this is what I saw. David, would you back up one picture, please? So looking at my
I'm seeing a
hedge,
bunch of different screens. I'm not seeing the pictures. I did, but now I don't. There we go. There we go.
yeah, I need you to back up one to the first picture, please. Yeah. So this is what I saw from my side of the hedge, which is basically all that's left of what used to be a full hedge that you couldn't even see through before. If you would then, David, please go to the next picture. So I went out on to the east section and took a look at it. And in essence, this is what I saw from the back end, and was very surprised and confused about how much had been cut back in there. The stakes that you see there is a very important issue in this. The stakes, I don't know how well you can see it here in the room, but the stake closest to the bottom there is that, and then there's one up in the right-hand corner, that they were the stakes that were put in by the surveyors or whoever did it for the county for the silk line. Would you go to the next picture, please? It's important to understand where the position of these stakes were, and there's no dispute at all by me or anybody else, and never has been, whether those stakes were accurate or not. But in reality, as you can see, those two stakes, one stake was just a foot away from my property line on the east side, and the other stake was 10 feet down. So there was really a total of 57 feet between the two distances of those stakes. And apparently when the cutting crews came down through there, that's what they, I'm not sure what they were going by in determining what the property line was, but those were the only stakes they had out there. So that's where the stakes were located. Would you go to the next picture, please? So wanting to take a look and thinking that my property was gouged out there, basically we stretched the line from the Laguna Caribe stakes right down, so we had a straight line, and you can see how far back on the left of that line that was cut. Also, you probably can't see it, but at the time we were doing this, the silk fence contractor was actually coming up from the background down there, and he was coming up towards us. Would you go to the next picture, please?
Guys, the pictures are not advancing. I still see two posts.
What do you see now?
I see a tractor and someone looking at a post or a.
Okay, that's about what it is anyway, John. What happened is the foreman for the fencing crew, he had originally stopped short, and he came up to talk to us. It was very nice, and asked us if we needed any help or any information. So we explained to him that we were just trying to determine where the property line was, to determine if in fact it had been cut back behind our property, which what it appeared to be. He was very nice. He explained to us about the markings on the original sticks that were put out there, and consequently it identified that they were out 2 feet from the property line. So what we did is I got a couple of 2x4s, and he actually drove the stakes, our 2x4 stakes, into the ground for us on back what should be the property line, which was 2 feet back from their stakes. And I will say that basically there's no question about whether their stakes were right, because essentially a couple days later, I actually dug down and found the corner markers, the original corner markers on our property that were installed, I guess, during the original survey. So there was no question about that. Could you go to the next picture, please? This is just the example. Of course, this was after the fence was put in, but this is just an example of where we drove the 2x4s stakes down there. And at first, I even told the gentleman to go ahead and put the fence up. We didn't want to hold them up coming up the line. But he said, no, absolutely, if we were going to do what we were going to do, to go ahead and do it, because once they came up there, they would be destroying the stakes that were put in. So fortunately, that stake was left there after the fence went through. So go to the next picture, please. Now, what we did here is we moved our line back from the original stakes that were in there to the stakes that are supposed to be the property line. So you can see everything that's been cut on the left-hand side of that line, and the size of the material and stuff that was cut out of there. Let's go to the next picture, please. This is how it is today, basically, from those 2x4 stakes that we put in, which are right on the property line and basically verified by digging up the corner stakes. You can see the amount of material there, or you can see going down through there how it is cut back into the left. And would you go to the next picture, please? And of course, this is a close-up of the area where I have these big holes, and I'm absolutely convinced and proving that basically was all cut on our property. And would you go to the last picture, please? Looking down, it's a little hard to tell in this picture, but if you stand up away from our property on the upper side and you look down the row, going down the rest to sea, you don't see it. Again, it may not be very clear here, but you don't look down that line, and just looking down the silt fence, basically, I think if you look at the real picture, or anybody that wants to come over and look at it, they're more than welcome to come look at it. And I think that they'll agree that it is cut back. I did ask both Pat and David at different times to come over and just look at it so that I had witness firsthand, not just from the pictures. Okay, that's it as far as the pictures go. Now, the second issue is trying to deal with Laguna Caribe. I contacted David and got a telephone number and an email address for Dwayne. I tried for several hours to try to get through on the phone number that I was given and wasn't able to, so I eventually then sent Dwayne an email. And I asked that he would come out and meet with me either Thursday or Friday and take a look at it. I really felt, well, let me say prior to that, basically I was pretty disgusted with what had happened because we had a pretty good barrier there before. But having my working career, most of my working career in industrial maintenance, I basically figured, well, somebody just screwed up. So the best thing to do, and probably the easiest option, is just to ask Laguna Caribe to come in. They have all the equipment there. They haven't chipped anything up or whatever. Just to ask them to come in and take out the rest of the hedge that's there. I felt it would look a heck of a lot better. Whatever they're going to do on their side would look a heck of a lot better if they would just clean that stuff out and have it all open. So again, I tried to get a hold of Dwayne. In essence, we did communicate by way of email, and even though I felt some reluctancy, he did agree to come out and meet with me in the next couple of days. In preparation for our meeting, and for his convenience, I actually put together a 10-page document with 8 pages of pictures, colored pictures and everything of the whole situation, and had that ready to discuss with him on Thursday or Friday, but he never came. He never called. And then over the weekend, I found out that he had written a separate email. I'm not sure whether it was just to David or David and, well, who he wrote it to, but it sounded like from what I heard that it wasn't very favorable. So on Monday, I went down to see David, and then David read the email to me where apparently Dwayne just dwelled on 2 issues. That number one, the original stakes were all put in by the county and verified by the county. And that basically, for the most part, I'm not sure the exact wording, but that I had refused, that his foreman had talked to me and I would not listen to what his foreman had to say, and that I refused to listen to him. So being 5 days since he said he would come and he didn't, I ended up writing an email to Dwayne, sent him the 10-page document with all the pictures and everything. And then everything went downhill very quickly right after that. His first paragraph, I'm going to quote the first paragraph as his response. His first response to me was, "I don't know what you think you're doing, but you do not have any legal position upon which to base any complaints. Our site work contractor attempted to explain the staking and the clearing to you, and he tells me you refuse to listen." In the next paragraph, he said, "The clearing took place on our property, not yours. This is fully legally established." One of the things that I really felt was outlandish was the comments about his contractor or foreman, whatever he was called, because there was never any conversation. The gentleman that we talked to from the fencing company was a perfect gentleman, and he actually even helped us, not only information-wise, but like I said, he drove the stakes in the ground for us because he had a sledgehammer and I didn't. So, thinking especially the issue about the contractor, I responded to Dwayne again. And this time I completely outlined everything that had taken place on that day. Dwayne responded, "Stop communicating with me. You already threatened me with your lawyer and insulted me with zero cause to do so. You refused to listen to my construction manager. Any further communications from you on this matter is harassment." Well, folks, I don't know what kind of people and attitudes they were dealing with, but I'll tell you what, if this is the way they do business, I think we've got a rough road to hoe going down this road. It is true, basically, I have, knowing that he would not even come out and look at it, I've actually, not knowing for sure what I should do and the fact that we're going home in a couple of days, I basically just talked to my attorney back in Pennsylvania to find out and explain the situation, to find out, well, if this was in Pennsylvania, what should I do and how should I go about it down here? And I would really prefer that it not become a legal matter. I wasn't told, I thought this could be simply handled, but if that's what it's going to be, then I'm going to get my advice this summer and then I'm going to pursue it from there. But I think I can prove beyond any reasonable doubt that basically they destroyed the hedge in the back. And just one issue too, Pat, I'd like to go back to your comment about the HOA not getting involved. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but in the discussion with my attorney, basically he asked me some questions when it came around to the HOA. And basically in the questions that he asked, he said, you know, did this happen in the boundary of the HOA regulated and controlled resort? Which obviously it did. Was a hedge planted by the developer? And obviously it was. Did the HOA take over the responsibilities of the developer? I'm assuming they did. Hasn't the HOA maintained the hedge for how many years? And they have. He said, well, then how in the world could the HOA not have any role in this matter, whether it be legal and not legal, ethical? So please believe me, at this point, I'm not making any suggestion on what the HOA should be doing or whatever. It just seems to me that there should be some sort of a role in playing or moderating any kind of a dispute such as this. Unless you have any questions, I thank you.
I would like to respond, but if somebody else has a question, please go ahead. Anything else? Okay. Number one, the survey stakes were installed by a licensed professional land surveyor, state certified, county certified land surveyor. And we know they're correct. Our crews were out there, and I watched them. I mean, I didn't watch the whole darn thing go in, but I watched them for probably an hour And what they did is all these stakes, which are all what we call offset stakes. In other words, you can't put a stake in the middle of a root ball of a hedge. You have to stick it somewhere else. And then what they do is they post an offset distance is written on the stake saying it's 2 feet. And it varies. Sometimes they were 2 feet, sometimes they were 6 feet. It just varied on what the conditions were of the ground as to how far the offset was. But in each case, I watched with my own eyeballs the crews use a tape measure. They would run a line between the two stakes that were adjacent to each other, and they would use a tape measure to measure exactly to where the property boundary line actually existed. And they took nothing on the other side of the line. Probably half to 2/3 of the hedge was on our side of the property line. We don't take those out because we want to be annoying neighbors. We take them out because we're required to. It's part of our approved drainage plan. And when the construction is done, which we're at the very beginning stage of now, that whole area along there is going to be completely regraded. There'll be a berm that essentially runs along the boundary between the two lots. That berm will be on our side of the line. And then just on the other side of that berm is a drainage swell. The drainage swell is where all the surface water collects, takes it to a drain, and then that goes into our drainage system. So we don't have a choice. We have to take right up to the property line. We're required to. It's not an option. Is it possible one of the workers may have, gone a little too far? It's possible. I mean, I can't say it's impossible, but I watched them and they were very careful. I mean, they were down to the fraction of an inch in their measurements that they were taking. The fence contractor you're referring to is not our site work contractor. They're a sub to our site work contractor, and all they're responsible for is installing the fence. The fence is installed roughly 12 to 18 inches from the property line. The reason being is by law, they're required to bury the bottom of the fence in dirt. So you can't put the silt fence right on the line. It's like 1.5 feet. Every single one of those pictures, that's exactly where the cutting should have gone with respect to the stakes. With respect to my response to Mr. Holmberg, I told him I was very busy. I couldn't get out there right away, but I would probably try to get out there sometime in the next few days. What I did then is immediately got on the phone with my contractor, and the project manager for our contractor, or general manager actually, is Cody White. I know you've met him, David. He's one of the nicest people in the world. But he went out there, and there were several lot owners, particularly C101 and C102, that were taking issue with where the cutting was going on. One of them, I believe it was C101, threatened to call the police.
That is an absolute. C101 is my property. I was not there when they cut.
Then there was
and I never had any discussion with your supervisor. The only person I ever had a discussion with was
He said it was a lady,
man.
so it might have been your wife. I don't know.
My wife was with me.
He didn't know who she was, but she claimed to own the property.
That was site 102.
Okay. Well, you can say it's a lie all you want, but my manager directly went out there and dealt with it that day. So for you to claim that I ignored you or blew you off is just absolute, pardon my French, bullshit. Okay? I took it seriously. I asked my guys to take it seriously. They took it seriously. Then the next thing I know, I get this email from you claiming that you're talking to your lawyer. You said I wasn't man enough to deal with you, which that's personally insulting. And, anybody that comes and tells you that is somebody that's cruising for a bruising. I'm sorry, but that's bullshit too. So I pardon me for saying what I'm thinking, but nobody talks to me that way and then expects to get treated with respect, because that ain't going to happen. So now, I'm still talking. If you have a claim against the contractor, you can always go file a claim against the contractor. If you want to hire a surveyor, spend $500 to have them come out there and measure whether a particular part of the branch or whatever was cut what it shouldn't have been, then you're welcome to do that. We already paid our surveyor to do that. We paid lots of money to surveyors and to contractors to handle all of this and do it professionally. It was all checked by the county and they approved it. So beyond that, we have no responsibility to take out the hedge on your property. That's not our problem. That's your problem. If you think it looks better without the hedge, have at it, take it out. But it's not our problem. It's not our responsibility. We are totally responsible for everything on our side of the property boundary. We are not responsible for anything on your side. Now, most of the people that we interacted with in Cypress Woods last week when this hedge cutting started, there was a combination of, hey, I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to look like this, to, well, you told us you weren't going to take it out. And, and I chatted with those people and it was a respectful two-way conversation. And when we were done, everybody understood and we're on, happy terms. But you're the only person that called your lawyer, the only person who sent me an insulting email. You're the only person who has come to this HOA and lied to the HOA about stuff that did not happen. So I'm sorry. That's the way it is. If you have a claim, file a claim.
All right, I think we've taken enough time on this issue. Ted?
More than enough.
I just asked one more question. Pat, you were there and saw the situation with the line struck down. What is the property line, which lines up exactly with the pins? Nobody's questioning what he did with respect to the stakes that they put in. They were right on the money. But you saw where we went, when we set the stakes 2 feet back, and you saw the line coming down there, and the pictures show right there all the material that's cut on my side of the property line.
From the line you struck and showed me, it looked like it was cut.
And David, you confer with that? Okay, well then we'll settle. Well, unfortunately it'd be that way, but we'll have to settle in the court then.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you, Ted. David, I forgot one thing. The Welcome Center pool, we have all the bids in on that yet?
We have, I think, three viable bids right now for the actual pool itself. The pool deck, we had a couple of contractors out last year. They worked with the facilities committee. We're getting mixed results on it. They said do the pool first, then do the pool deck afterwards. And they don't have to be done at the same time, but the deck is in worse condition than the pool itself. So it's sort of a two-part problem. The only quote we actually received was, I think, a company called Surface.
For the deck?
Yeah, about $20,000 for the deck, and that's to put on, similar to the exterior of these buildings, like a textured, not stucco, but like concrete.
But isn't the problem with the deck, it's sinking?
That's another problem, but we only.
That's a bigger problem.
Well, one of the 3 contractors that was out there said that, and the other 2 didn't. It was only one guy, the company that, conveniently does have that product that they can pump foam in there and lift it back up and stabilize it. They're the ones that said that corner was sinking. No one else did. They made reference to some of the lines that were in the concrete that they integrated one of the cracks into the design of the concrete. So it was cracked before they even put that last overlay on.
Yeah.
But they said that could be causing the delamination. We don't know. It was only one company. The other ones had no problem with it.
I think we're under the gun from the county on getting that pool done.
It's got to be done this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got it. We're going to have to get that.
Do you want additional quotes, or do we want to talk about the?
Well, why don't we send out the quotes that we have?
Okay.
I think I probably have most of them. So make sure the whole board has it, and we'll have to get something rolling on that for the summer. Get that done.
And as far as the pool deck sinking goes, like I said, it was one of 3 companies that looked at it that said that, and it was the company that does specialize in that sort of thing. The other ones didn't have any issue with it. So who do you trust?
My concern is you got a sinkhole development area. If you got a leak in the line in a pool or something, you get a sinkhole, it's going to
And Pat,
It's your little house.
a couple of years ago, I know when Tina was here, do you remember that, Brittany? We had a sinking problem underneath that pool. And we had a company come out, gosh, I want to say it was in 17.
Yeah, that's on the other
Barb,
side.
does that sound right? We had a company come out to do that. So it's very possible that we have a major issue under there.
There was a leak on the west side of the pool. The one that the slab they think is sinking or is hollow underneath. He didn't say it was sinking. He just said there's a cavern under there, and whether it's a 2-inch cavern or a 10 feet deep cavern, that's on the northern side of the pool.
How about, I know they have these ground radar companies that can come out and can kind of tell you what the sinkhole is. Because we had one where I worked that we had a building sinking in a hole. Wonder if somebody like that could come out and see what that.
We can. What they were recommending was just camera. They said if you just get a concrete drill bit and drill a hole straight down, the concrete is 6 inches deep or so. So if you put an 18-inch drill bit on there and just go all the way through and stick one of those little the cameras they used to work on cars and stick them in walls and things like that.
Yeah, I got a
You could see
camera
what's
like
under
that. You drill a hole, I get a camera.
there. I've got a big masonry drill bit. So
I
All
think
right,
there are
let's-
contractors who
let's
specialize
at
in
least get the
repairing
pool.
pool leaks like that, so I'm sure you can find somebody that can handle
we
that.
don't believe we have a pool leak right now. None of the pool contractors we've had have indicated that we do have a leak. We don't have any of the other signs of it, but it would be hard to tell. There's no water meter on the pool system.
But
And
does it have an automatic fill?
it does have an autofill. Yeah.
Well, you could shut the automatic fill off and see, well, you're going to
Well,
get so much
it evaporates
evaporation
anyway.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both pools evaporate, especially this time of year, as dry as it is.
Well, let's get working on that pool refinishing. Okay, I'm sorry. Anybody else from the audience?
Good morning, guys.
Morning, Jim.
I've got a couple things here. We're talking about the speed limit in the resort. Has anybody looked into the fact that you can get these plastic screw-in speed bumps?
Cannot do it. The fire department will not allow us to put speed bumps in there.
Okay,
Looked into that years ago.
okay.
We actually put them in. We had to take them out.
What?
We took some out. We have just those 1 or 2 humps left.
Yeah, I know, because I got the letter from the fire department. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, I thought that'd be a good idea.
Well, they approve the speed humps, but it's the bumps that they apparently have a problem with, or?
Yeah, because it slows down the ambulance and the fire department. The
I don't-
fire department is the jurisdiction having authority, and they said absolutely no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lee County won't let you allow or install either of them. Speed bumps or humps right now are both off the table because of the emergency services.
We had the humps, those stayed, but the bumps, no.
Okay. The second one. We've got to rework the whole backside of B on the fence, correct? Pretty much.
B,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about taking the fence down in the front? Use that wood back there to do that with, and let's put a nice wall in the front out here. We're gonna go and put this big sign up. That's what you say, $28,000? 24,000? Well,
24 and 14, whatever.
okay, but let's put a nice wall up there and make it look really curb appealing.
You mean take the wood for the front fence?
And use it in the back, then go ahead and put a wall up. That'll save us 50 cents on the dollar.
Oh, a masonry wall.
Yes. I think it look good.
See what kind of cost you're looking at, something like that.
Sure.
Just a suggestion, if that's something that we want to consider and get a price on, you can contact Harry Stinson. He's on D162.
He doesn't do masonry walls.
No, he doesn't do masonry, but he does a really, really nice wall. Really nice looking wall.
Oh, walls?
And we can get, he pay half of it.
Wow, well,
Sure, why not?
careful with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
David, you can maybe talk to him. I'm not sure. He's got a lot on his plate right now, but it might be an email to him.
But it's a
Okay.
worthwhile suggestion. Certainly it would dress up the front of the
Definitely.
resort.
All right,
Thank you.
good look at
Thanks,
that.
thanks, guys.
All right, Jim.
Take that picture down.
George Pokinghorn, C107. I jumped up because I just want to echo after what Jim discussed. I sat on my porch through 2 cups of coffee this morning, and at the intersection in front of my house, 19 vehicles passed through that intersection between 7 and 8:30 this morning. Only 3 of them stopped for the stop sign. The rest of them just completely went through the stop sign. That includes company-owned vehicles as well as people in this room. If we increase the number of stop signs in the park, that certainly would slow people down if they would utilize them. I think that's a much more intelligent way to approach it, and I don't think the fire department would have a problem with that. Number 2, on the same subject, with the speed limit signs that you're considering, that may momentarily make someone slow down. If they don't, and you take a picture of their license plate, are we going to trace the plate? Are we going to send them a letter? Are we going to fine them? What are we going to do with the information that we gather, and to what end? I don't see that as a valid solution to the problem at all.
If you get the persons, identify the vehicle and a person, and you have it in your bylaws that the speed limit is 15 miles an hour and somebody blows through at 30 miles an hour and you have a picture of it, you certainly can fine them. It's got a lot more teeth in it than just putting a lot of stop signs up for more people to run
We
through.
have the ability as a board to fine people for speeding in the park.
You have an ability as a board for finding people for violating I don't like to fine people, but if it's a violation of the rules, yes.
Okay, and what cost involved to gather the information to be able to do that?
Well,
And when you find out it's a rental car, so, or a company-owned vehicle. Yeah,
well, we might not get everyone, George, but I bet you we can catch a heck of a lot of them. When you identify the car, you've got the picture, you got the picture of the driver in the car and the license plate. It may not be worth doing. Just maybe do nothing. I mean, that seems like where you're going with this.
My solution is by putting stop signs up,
Like
slowing
the middle of the street, we have stop signs at every intersection that nobody stops for now. So more stop signs to run through?
Well, maybe we should enforce that.
Yeah, well, did you get any license numbers or anything? Or just, how do you enforce a stop sign? It's just like these people on the bicycles, they ride through, they don't stop for one stop sign, you almost get hit every day. I mean, unless you know who it is and you can turn them in, we want to get a cop on every corner waiting for a stop sign?
No, I want to slow the speed down in the park.
Well,
I don't want to wear a badge.
That's what we brought up about, but you say it's not going to work.
I don't think the capital expenditure or non-capital expenditure will yield any result of any value.
But you think putting more stop signs around, like in the middle of the straightaways?
I do think that would help, yes.
I'm sure people are going to stop in the middle of the street for no good reason. I mean, they don't stop.
Well, they don't now.
All right. I appreciate your comment.
I'll be happy to give you I'll sit out there and drink my coffee and bring you a list every day if you want to. I have no problem with that, but we need to do something that has a long-term effect, not a momentary effect. And if you put these speed signs up and then pursue, what are you going to find out? Oh, it's a FedEx truck and we don't know who's driving it that day. Or it's a rental car and the rental company isn't going to chase down who the driver was that day. And you've got a one-time effect. A stop sign means you stop every time you go past that sign.
Oh, they're doing it now, I guess, right? You just started out saying how many cars went through the stop signs.
That's correct. So why don't we enforce that?
We're going to put more stop signs up for them to go through.
Which means they have to slow down and come to a stop. They can't maintain their 50 miles an hour.
Okay, thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing. If we're going to go to the work with the new gate entry information and gather all that information, we need to remember the social committee's doing a directory of people that to cross-utilize that information would be helpful to the social committee. Thank you.
Anyone else?
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. At least if you identify habituals. We got to put some teeth in our rules.
I kind of wanted to go back to the storage area. Do we know if FPL has an easement, the width of their easement for their area back there? I'm thinking
Yes.
I know at one time, this is years and years ago when Lee first started the storage area, we had permission from Florida Power and Light to extend the end of that opening. He says, as long as you give us access through there, we don't care. You can go ahead and do that. My thinking is if Dwayne and them, they're hauling that dirt through there, if we find out what the easement width of that is, I know you can't get around the towers, but if we can find out the easement, we may not have to encroach on the wetland area if we stay within their easements. I don't know. And then if they're hauling that dirt through there, they could drop off dirt and grade it out, even if we don't keep the storage area as wide as it is right now. We could still pick up some area, some storage lots. And another thing, according to the bylaws, anybody that's not an owner in the park does not have they're not allowed to have a storage lot. I think there's 4 back there right now that people have left the park and they still have lots. And that needs to be checked into. We got a list a mile long, people wanting lots in there, so.
I don't think there's any rentals on that.
Well, I think John Harmon's got 2 lots back there and he's not in the park and doesn't own it.
John Harmon doesn't have a lot. He
doesn't
was
have
using
anything.
somebody else's lot who was an owner, and I think he's out of there now.
Yeah, owners can sort of sublease it to whoever they want. We've never had a rule against that. They let friends use it and whoever else, but everyone who pays a lease is an owner. And we don't let anyone keep it past 30 days.
So there's nobody in here that has a lot back there that's not a present owner?
No,
No, okay.
they may be
I thought there
using someone's
was.
lot, but nobody pays us for it.
No, all right, that's all I got.
To answer your question, the FPL easement is a consistent 160-foot width.
Yeah, I think it's 160, I was going to say.
And it's just a few feet to the west of the actual property boundary is where it starts, and then it goes 160 feet west from there. The issue about wetlands, that's something the FPL doesn't get involved with at all. That's strictly county and state deal with that.
Yeah. Well, my thinking is though, if we stay inside their apparent easement that they have now, can we build on that?
I don't know, Jack, because part of that easement has wetlands in it, that they are allowed to have a road, but I'm sure that's probably all they could fill in to build that road. Because when Steve was here, we went down there with a guy from Southwest Florida Water Management, and that's when he told us we couldn't go north, but we could go south. But he said, there are some wetlands down there, but that they have to tell you exactly how much you could possibly fill in.
Well, that's
No.
what I was getting at. If we could find that out while they're still hauling dirt, and if we can pick up enough for 10 more lots or 10 more storage areas. They're coming through there. They could dump dirt there and we just grade it out and you can build on it.
Well,
That you won't
It's
be
gonna-
able to get an answer
before
on
we
that
dump
before
any
we're
dirt, we're
done.
going to have to go through a lot of permitting process.
Sold by the time we get.
We're going to have our dirt hauling done within 3 months, so.
Yeah.
And Jack, if you recall, there was a group that wanted to put a little a little RC racetrack,
Right.
Yeah.
and they couldn't even do that because of the squirrel preserve. All they wanted to do
I
was
know.
be able
That
to
was
use
north.
the dirt,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do it.
Yep. But it was just an idea because I know Florida Power and Light told us, this is back 21 years ago, that we could expand it if we wanted to. They didn't have no problem with it as long as we maintain them access through the ends.
Oh, I don't think FP&L will be a problem.
You know,
It's all those others.
Yeah.
It's
They
everybody
just
else.
want to be able to get their trucks through.
Just 1 second.
Time's up.
There you go. Got another solution in. At this, well, it's a serious stuff.
I'm sorry.
It's serious stuff when you got people running stop signs.
Right, I
Okay?
understand.
Let's take and put the speed bumps at the stop sign. Why not? Now, the ambulance has got to stop at the stop sign.
If they're coming in on an emergency, I don't think they have to stop anywhere. They turn on their lights and go through intersections all day long.
Stop sign. I drove a fire truck for 30 years. I ain't stopped for no stop signs or red lights.
No,
Okay,
Nice try.
Even when you weren't going anywhere in a rush?
There's a waste of money right there.
do you like have to launder and reuse those, or you just toss them out, or what?
Start calling him the Trojan man.
Take them when you.
DJ Roop, A33. Just a couple questions. We were talking about the sub HOA docs and everything. So I'm assuming, and you know what that makes me, that the board has chosen option 2. Nothing has been decided yet?
That's what we're looking at right now. Yeah, option 2 with the master HOA and a sub for Laguna Creek.
Okay,
It's not so much a formal decision as that's a path, and then once everything's laid out for everybody to look at and review, I mean, if we decide we don't want to do that, I guess we could do something different. But I think once it's laid out, it's going to work very well.
okay. So I just wanted to know what meeting I missed, if that had already been decided. And piggybacking onto that, if we go with option 2, you're giving up your 4 votes per lot?
That's correct. We would have, we're going to actually end up having to give them up anyway, because every time we sell a lot, we lose that goes with the lot sale. But I think under this approach, we would, the sub HOA would have 1 vote on the board of the master HOA.
Yes.
And then there'd be however many additional board members. And developer rights and all that would go away because it's no longer relevant to the master, but it's still relevant inside of Laguna Creek.
Okay,
So what we'll do is we'll control the sub HOA until we get to a point where we either decide on our own to turn it over, or at the very latest, by state law, when you get to 90% of sales, you have to turn it over.
okay. And then talking about the clearing of the land back there and everything, we're in a very high fire risk right now. And it's been a concern for us, that, we get a thunderstorm and a lightning strike, and with all that dry brush down. So asking if maybe you could dump it further away from the actual boundaries of Cypress Woods?
Well, what's going to happen, and it's of course a process that doesn't complete itself overnight, but we're going to complete the clearing over the next 2 weeks, give or take. And by the end of that clearing, everything's going to be chipped and hauled off. So it'll all be gone. And actually you'll end up with probably a lot lower fire danger because all that brush will
Yeah.
be gone that's there right now. So, but I
Okay.
can't, there'll be an interim period where we're piling stuff up in different places, and then it'll all be gathered and chipped and hauled off.
But where possible, you could move it away from the boundary.
Well, it's not going to be, it's already cleared away from the boundary now.
They got a good fire break all the way around.
It's
that
probably
now.
15 feet wide, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay. And just quite a rumor, the rumor has it that you are, Laguna Caribe is actively doing international marketing for rentals.
International, as in
Yeah.
advertising overseas?
Advertising overseas.
No,
And-
we have a website, and anybody from anywhere can tune into your website and figure out, but no, we don't even have our marketing operation up and running yet. We're still finishing up some things like 3D renderings of our facilities and so forth. That's not even done yet. But yeah, anybody can buy from overseas. Just like anybody can tune into any website, but we're not really focusing like that. Primarily what we're focusing on is marketing to people who are already own motor coaches, and that's mostly Americans.
Well, like I said, rumor mill, stopping false information, was that you were advertising overseas for the rentals so they could
We've
come
done
up.
no advertising
So,
other than our website, which is very vague right now.
so looking more at a very active rental program than a sales program.
Well, we're renting on two levels. One, we'll rent any lot we haven't sold.
Mhm.
And as most people know, the demand for rental lots in South Florida is extremely high. There's always a long waiting list here as well as every other resort in South Florida. So we would expect that anything we haven't sold will get rented out, but we're also offering a rental management service to our own lot buyers in Laguna Creek, which is also available to any other owner in Cypress Woods. If you want to have us manage your rentals, we'll be glad to do that. But, international, they're other than Canadians, there's a lot of Canadians come down here. I think we've got
Certainly.
quite a few in Cypress Woods, but other than that, there aren't too many, Germans or Spaniards or Russians that are, driving motorhomes over here. So
Okay, I'm still not getting my clarification in that. Your main focus is still to sell the lots.
yeah, absolutely. We want to sell them as
Get the
quick
hell
as
out
we
of
can.
Okay,
And then anything that hasn't been sold, we don't want it to just sit there. We want to be able to generate some revenue from it.
but it's not majorly to just rent the lots and maintain
No,
all the control over there.
no, we're not in that business. We're in the lot sales business.
Okay, just stopping the rumor.
Hey, Dwayne, I just have a question, and maybe you can't answer it. I was just curious. I know you did some pre-marketing for sales.
Mhm.
Do you have any lots that have been reserved?
Oh, yeah.
Have
yeah.
you?
Yeah, we've had quite a lot of inquiries, and we've gotten some pre-sale or, reservations. But, we really, like I was saying, we really haven't done our marketing program yet. Frankly, it's been excruciatingly slow to do that because we have to coordinate what our architects are doing with what our graphics artists are doing. And it's really hard for people to understand what we're offering unless they can visualize it. And so hopefully, right now we're on course to hopefully have all those renderings done this month, and then we'll actually be, doing a lot more activity.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think everybody was done.
Yeah, I just want.
Okay.
Thank you.